ACT English Red Series Test number 2, mini quiz 1 through 12. Kids, here's what we're going to do. You're going to come on in and just take the quiz 1 through 12, and then I will give you the answers on video. I will blaze through how I derive the correct answer and, of course, give you the correct answer. If you do get anything wrong, pay close attention, maybe re-watch again. All right, go ahead, pause the video now, and we'll come on back when you're done with the answers and explanations. Problem number 1, you're going to notice there's a comma here. I traced that in. That's a dependent clause. We could prune that off, make the sentence a little bit shorter. And then it says, I blank, fortunate to be chosen to participate in an exchange study program. All right, this is known as the tense rule. What we want to do is we want to match the sentence tense here, which is last spring, so that's past tense. Will is future tense. We can get that out of there. And have been, we're going to get it down to answer choice. Had been or was, simple is best, a little bit shorter. And if you read it, it just flows a little bit better. Answer choice C. Problem number 2, first things first, make sure that you see the comma after Paris. It's a dependent clause that can be pruned out. It makes the sentence shorter. It says, I was greeted by a nice couple. Okay? So it doesn't say him or her. It's a he, she, or anybody else. Remember, the shortened version of the M&M rule is always say who unless they say him or her. So the answer on this one is going to be answer choice F for problem 2. Problem number 3, we're going to use 2 rules here. The first one is a dot dot. A dot dot, if you remember, we have from the movie I Love DQ. So L stands for list, D stands for description, and Q stands for a direct quote with quotation marks. So there for sure is not a list and there is not a direct quote, but this is a description. So if you look over here, pouring from my mouth, speaking the language, that's going to give you a description. The correct answer is A. How come it's not answer choice B? B is a comma. Now remember, when we have a description, it's a description of a series of words, and here in abandoned boxcar, we said that speaking is going to be a mini definition of mouth. Does that make sense? Is this a mini definition of a mouth? Hey, I have a mouth, comma, is something that is part of my face. Speaking the language is not a mini definition of speaking a language. Does that make sense? The correct answer for 3 is going to be A. Problem number 5, if you look up here, the previous sentence says, we had breakfast with the 2 of them. That's going to be an independent clause. If you look at the back end here, you're going to see it says, we'll all go our separate ways for the rest of the day. That's another independent clause as well. That does work when it comes to a fanboys, a comma, and the word so. But in this case, you see that we have day, and then in the previous part up here, it says breakfast. So day and breakfast, or the rest of the day and the breakfast, that's suggesting that there's some type of time relationship. That's why D is the better answer choice. C is not a therefore conclusion, and since is not or giving you some type of a reasoning. Answer choice D is the correct answer. A is the second best one. However, D, because of the time relationship, is going to be the best answer. Problem number 6 is the pups rule. What happened to Mr. Spups, the purple puppy from Shenzhen, China? We're dealing with apostrophe S's. First thing that we want to do here is we want to say close association or ownership. Parents have a close associationship or ownership of their extended family, because it's not my extended family, it's theirs. So that means that we're going to need an apostrophe. Apostrophe represents like a mini name tag. F, there is no mini name tag here, and answer choice J, there's no mini name tag here. Those can be knocked out right away. The difference between G and H, G says it's one parent owning, and H says it's multiple parents. So the correct answer is going to be H, it's multiple parents and their extended families. Problem number 7, what I always do is I always save the no punctuation to the end. I want to check that punctuation first. So I'm starting with A. There's a comma here. As soon as I see the comma here, right there is the word so. That's a fanboys. Fanboys means there's going to be 2 independents on both sides. If you read the first part, they travel outside France for several weeks. That's an independent. And then here it says And what I do is I put my finger over the fanboys and then just read it, because the fanboys will goof you up in regards to labeling it independent or dependent. Tending to all the business that arises from unforeseen death. That's a dependent clause. That's why that answer choice is not going to work. Remember, fanboys has to have two independents, and here we have one independent, a comma, fanboys, and a dependent, not working. We move on to answer choice C. Answer choice C, this is a great problem to work on because it illustrates exactly what I'm teaching in class. We're using the red pens and the yellow markers, all right? So here's a comma. This is abandoned boxcar. They had to travel outside of France. That's independent. And then the second part here is tended to business all over. That is a dependent clause. However, when you look at the word just to the left, it says several weeks. Several weeks is... 1 week is 7 days, and so several is going to be 21 days. Right here, it just says business. Is business several weeks? Is that a mini definition of several weeks? No, you're out. Take a look at answer choice D. D doesn't make any sense. All we have in there is just, when you read it from the beginning to the end, it doesn't make any sense. They had traveled outside of France for several weeks to all of the business that arises. I just feel like it just doesn't really make sense on that one. The correct answer for 7 is answer choice B. Problem number 8 and 9 we'll do together. Problem number 8 here, it says we're moving. And so do you really need to say you have to pack your suitcases? No, razor blade on that one. That's extra non-essential information. Number 9, also simple is best. So this information is redundant, and then this information is also redundant. It says an English speaker that speaks English. The correct answer on this one is going to be D, short and simple, razor blade for both 8 and 9. 8J, 9 is D. Problem number 10, it's a very tricky M&M problem. Remember we said ask the question. In this particular case here we're saying I, whom was surprised to find one of my CDs being played on the stereo. So in this case what we want to do is we want to say I was surprised to find he playing. I was surprised to find him playing. He would go with who and him would go with her. I was surprised to find him playing the CD. You have to reword this because this is a complex sentence right here. Therefore, the correct answer for number 10 is F. Remember, ask a question and you have to kind of play around with this a little bit, kids, because some of the harder ones there's only usually 2 on the test, so some of the harder ones you have to reword the question. Problem number 11 is a long question. These are called rhetorical skills, and remember what you have to do is you have to review your topic sentences and use the same strategies that you're using in the reading section, because rhetorical really means reading. One of the rules that we've learned in reading is the good stinky rule. In this particular case, plus or minus, I go right to the answer choices, and here it says in just a few hours we were attached at the hip. I put a plus next to that. He hadn't heard of a lot of my CDs. That's kind of negative. Hadn't heard, negative. He didn't, that's negative. And answer choice D, he didn't speak Portuguese. These are all negative answer choices, and if you look at what's going on in up top, it's like we have a new roommate and it looks like, you know, we're friends. So the correct answer on this one using the good stinky rule, the only one that's positive is going to be answer choice A. And finally, the last question, problem number 12, it's a combo problem. This is probably the hardest one of the section here. It's a very long sentence. That sentence starts way up here. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4, there's 5 lines of text. As you learned in a little mini seminar with the professor, we always want to take a red pen and trace in your commas and then read up to the comma and label it. I'll do that. I left France with many stories. We go ahead and put a comma there, and that's going to be an independent clause. The second part here, you see that we have the word so we know right away that we're going to have another independent clause. Now keep in mind that we have to go from here, this is already out, here all the way up to the next part to get to independent. So when people asked me what my favorite part of the trip was, they were all surprised to da-da-da-da-da. That's going to be our independent. But you see how up to the next second comma, that's a dependent clause? But remember, once this independent is out, then whatever you do from that fanboys to the very end of the sentence, the period way down over here, has got to be an independent, and for sure it is another independent. So here is the pronoun that gives you the independent. Make sure you understand this. So in this case, we have an independent clause, a comma, a fanboys, then we have a dependent clause that could be pruned out. And this part could be pruned out as well. And now we start with they. They are always surprised to hear blah, 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 blah. So this is all gone. We're just starting. All of this stuff is gone. It's pruned out because we don't need that. One, independent clause, that's nothing to do with the underlying portion. Two, the dependent clause after the fanboys is not really helping us. We're looking for the independent clause in the second part of the sentence. All right, so far we've reduced that by 3 lines. Now, you've seen me do this before. Take your red pen and go to the period, and we're going to look to the left to try and prune the sentence out more. If you look all the way over here, there's going to be a comma and the word and. And I like soccer and football. If I say and football and I cross that out, we still have an independent clause that says I like soccer. Okay? Then we look to the left again. We see that weeknights on the town, that's a dependent clause, and dependent clauses can be knocked out as well. So we basically pruned off the first 3 sentences, or 3 lines, and then the last 2 lines, and now we have it down to they are surprised to hear blah, 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 blah about Paulo and the weekends in class. So we need an independent clause in here. They are always surprised to hear me talk. Right here, we put in a comma if we're taking a look at F. This is level 2 mummy wedges, and you don't want to, this is called a mummy wedge violation. For the most part, you're going to see that there's not going to be a comma and a mummy wedge next to each other. That one is going to be out. Because of that, you see in answer choice J, that's another mummy wedge violation, so that one can be out as well. Okay? Now, when we come back over here, we've got answer choice G left, which is nothing, and then answer choice J. So J here, you see there's the word about, and then there's Paulo. This is Mr. Chung, and this could be an exception to a mummy wedge, because if we cross this out, we still have to have a complete sentence, and that's not the case. So the correct answer is going to be answer choice G. Make sure that you see that. If we read this up here, they are always surprised to hear me talk, and then it would be right here, and the score of the week in the class. It feels like this is part of something that you need in there. And remember, Paulo is a capital proper noun, and so most of the time you're not going to put proper nouns, places, names of states, book titles, and so forth. You're probably not going to put that within Mr. Chung. Eyes, nose, and the mouth. Remember, Mr. Chung, 2 commas, what's between is non-essential information. I feel like because we have the Paulo in there, we're losing in stuff that we need in there. The answer choice is G on that one. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. If you do have any other questions about some of the questions, I tried to get through this video as quick as possible, and I went fast. So I understand if maybe there's a question or two you need to relook and take a second look at it. All right, you can speak with me or one of the interns or assistants. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.